Gather around, everybody. Today, more than any time, we need our community. If you're new here, my name's Amanda, and this is a vlog of my late autism and ADHD experience. Today, I'm going to be talking about the autistic and ADHD trait of justice sensitivity. And I'm going to be talking about it through my own lived experience. This is a very hard video to make. My emotions have been all over the place after the news of the American election. I know that this is a world platform, and I appreciate having viewers from all around the world. Knowing that I have community around the globe makes it feel a little bit less alone being here in this country right now. I'm sorry, I wasn't going to cry. Last day, I have felt numbness, disbelief, devastation, rage, so many emotions, anger, sadness. And this is somebody with alexithymia. That's like where it's difficult to even name your emotions. They've been strong. I'm going to read from a website called verywellmind.com. Justice sensitivity refers to an individual's sense of fairness, equity, and inclusion, as well as their need to address and correct injustices. So, like I've mentioned a lot of times on this channel, you can have an autistic trait and not be autistic or ADHD. But autistic and ADHD people experience certain traits at an intensity and frequency that is disabling. And that's why you get the diagnosis of being autistic and ADHD, because the rate at which you experience this whole range of these traits is disabling, and it qualifies as a disability under American with Disability Act and many other countries, their form of disability. So I know there's a lot of people out there who are not autistic, and they are experiencing a sensitive, they are experiencing justice sensitivity and being very activated by how unfair this election feels and how wrong it feels that Donald Trump won. Especially if you're in another marginalized group. It's going to be very similar in experience to somebody who is autistic and ADHD. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why autistic and ADHD people have the sense of justice triggered. One thing is, though, it stems from each autistic or ADHD individual's internal moral code. So for me, and I'm going to be talking about just real hard things that people don't want to talk about, but I like to give concrete examples on this channel. So for my own personal code, and I understand that there are going to be people who are listening who do not agree with me, but my personal code is that a fetus is not a human life, and abortion is healthcare. I believe that until a baby is viable, until that fetus becomes viable, it is not human life. After viability, I still believe in late-term abortions. Those are usually 1% of all abortions, or less than 1%. And the only time those things are happening is when they find out that through scans that the baby is not going to be viable after birth. And after that baby is born, it's going to be either stillborn, or it's going to be suffering after birth until it dies, like within hours. And so many parents at that point choose to humanely abort the baby instead of having its few hours on the planet suffering. And I know that there are people out there who believe that any fetus is human. To me, it's potential for human. It is not a human. And because I'm working from my moral code, when I hear that women do not have access to abortions, it will trigger my autistic and ADHD sense of justice, because women are literally dying because they don't have access to this care. And from the other perspective, people are saying babies are dying because women are aborting them. So from a unbiased statement, the autistic and ADHD sense of justice is triggered by your own internal moral code. Okay, I'm taking a little pause here because my brain is wanting to go into a tangent on this video and really just, what was the word? Correct the injustice of what MAGA did to us. That's not what this video is about. I will say, just because I want it on record, that I believe in equity, inclusion, healthcare access for everybody. I want government out of doctors' offices. I want equality for all human beings. My LGBT community, I want us to have all equal protections under the law. We are people. We are humans. Government should not dictate who and how we love, as long as it's all consenting adults. I want equality for all people of color. I want anybody who wants access to live in America, I want for them to have I want there to be an easier pathway to citizenship, and I want America to be home to anybody who wants to be here. I want equality for all disabled people, and I want access to accommodations. These are some things that are part of my moral code. I feel like MAGA is racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, and that is their moral code. They will hide behind Jesus. Somehow, Jesus wouldn't like them, but they like to hide behind Jesus. Okay. I just want to go on record and say that. Now I want to talk about Now I want to talk a little bit more about what causes this justice sensitivity in autistic and ADHD people. So for one thing, and again, I'm referring to Very Well Mind quite a bit on this because they just did a really good article. I'll link this article down below. Many autistic people have special interests. So oftentimes we will get so much knowledge around a topic and we will become experts, like beyond PhD experts sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Like you can have a special interest and not become like a super expert in it, but oftentimes you will. And so when somebody says something that goes against what we know because we've studied it inside and out and from every angle, then that can, again, trigger the autistic sense of justice because we're like, we know this subject so well, more than a lot of people who even just study it. Because when it becomes an autistic special interest, it's like our brain focuses on it so incredibly much that any misinformation around that topic, we want to correct. So that will trigger an autistic sense of justice. We also tend to hyper-focus on problems. And this is what happened for me in my brain for this election. When Biden stepped aside and Kamala was able to announce her candidacy, my brain hyper-focused on the election specifically. I have been consuming so much political content. And so even more than any other election year, the results were devastating, not only because they are like actually devastating, because our country came together to elect a wannabe dictator and fascist. Because of my hyper focus, it triggered even more devastation than I would have normally experienced. Autistic people also experience traumatic events at higher rate than the rest of the population. And remember, trauma isn't something that you can measure. I grew up, autistic minds are also very black and white. I grew up thinking that trauma meant a specific terrible event happened to you, and that was trauma. But as I'm learning, and as I got diagnosed with CPTSD, trauma can be a lot of microaggressions over time. And trauma also is like part of the brain. Like those same things could happen to somebody else and not be experienced as trauma to that person. But to somebody else, the brain reacts and it is traumatic. So because the fact that we experience traumatic events at a higher rate, we are often don't want others to experience that trauma or similar traumas. So if we see something that was traumatic that happened to us happening to somebody else, we can often want to jump in and, why can I not remember this word? Correct the injustice. I'm talking about justice, and my brain is not wanting to say the word injustice, the opposite. So when we've been traumatized and we see that happening to somebody else, we want to stop it. Autistic people often don't experience or understand hierarchy, so we often can feel like somebody who's a boss or somebody who is in power, if we see them doing something that we feel is morally unjust, we don't respond to hierarchy the same, and we want to call them out on it. We want to hold people to the same standard. Like, as I'm saying this to you, it seems like everybody should want to do that. But a lot of autistic people inherently respect authority and will trust the authority or trust that it's going to be handled. Not everybody, but it is more likely than an autistic person who really struggles with hierarchical relationships. That's just another common autistic trait that I'm not going to go into in this video, but it does play into autistic sense of justice because it affects us in workplaces, because if we see our manager or boss or somebody who's supposed to be above us doing something, we often can't sit idly by. We have to call it out, and that often gets autistic people fired. So justice sensitivity in ADHD, similar. A lot of ADHD people will hyper focus on something, and then if they see somebody or something say things that aren't accurate with that, just like the special interest, we will want to call it out. If that focus is a morality or justice point, it can get really intense. Like, for an autistic or ADHD person who is out there advocating for pro-choice, it can get really, really intense. This says that ADHDers tend to experience emotions more intensely than those without ADHD. I don't know that that one's true. I'm not sure that I can agree with that one. It says that we can get very angry about an injustice, which I do believe, and anger can be very highly motivating, which I do agree. But I don't agree with the fact that they're saying that people with ADHD experience emotions more than autistic people. I think that's one of those stereotypes where it's been believed that autistic people don't experience emotion, and I think it's researchers who observe us think that we don't, because a lot of times our facial expressions don't match the emotions we feel on the inside. So when a researcher is observing an autistic person, they will write down in their notes, not experience an emotion, especially because our voices might be flat, and we are experiencing the emotions sometimes way more intensely than an allistic, non-autistic person. We just don't express it the same way that allistic people do. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but because I'm linking this article down below, I want to say that I don't agree with that. So there are some good things about having a really strong sense of justice, and it means that we can make really good advocates. The drawback is that it can take a toll on our mental health. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about in this video is that in the days and years to come, there's going to be a need for a fight to keep fighting for equality, to keep, like, white men especially need to just set the misogyny aside and not speak over women, listen to women, elevate the women in your life. All men, not just white men, but all men. There's going to be a need to stamp out hate as much as we can. But advocacy work is going to look different for everybody. And no advocacy work is better than another. There are big, splashy forms of advocacy. There are, going on protests and marches and things like that. And some of those are not accessible to disabled people. There is no way I can ever go to a protest or a march. Another autistic person might be able to. I would not. If I went to a protest or a march, my body would literally either have a meltdown or shut down, and I would be then not safe and taking away from the activity that is going on, marching for other people, because then I'd be the focus. Like, I would literally shut down. My body could not handle that environment. My disability and the way my autistic traits line up would not be able to be in that environment. Another autistic person who likes loud noises and like gets energy from crowds may be able to advocate in a crowd or a protest. So like, all autistic people are individuals. So just if you see another autistic person who is like talking about going to a big rally or something, and you are like, I can't do that, everybody's advocacy work is going to look differently, especially if you're disabled. And like, I saw something going around about people wearing blue bracelets, and then I saw other people saying that's just performative. And you can do both. You can do more than one type of advocacy. Wearing a bracelet does not take much work. You can wear a bracelet and then also do other works of advocacy. If all you can do is wear a blue bracelet, and to show that you are somebody who is not MAGA, then that's not nothing. So the last thing we need to be doing is tearing each other down on what advocacy work we can do. So we need to look for ways to help. Right now, I don't know what that looks like for me, and that's okay. It's okay for us to take time and grieve this incredible loss and take a breather and then get out there and fight. Kamala said in her concession speech that when we fight, we win. The fight might just take a little longer than we had hoped. Elizabeth Warren said today, we need each other. We need to take care of each other. And please take care of yourself. You cannot fight if you aren't taking care of yourself right now. So one way to take care of yourself and to fight fascism and dictator and hate is to create. If you are a painter, paint. If you're a writer, write. Even if it's not like political works, just creating art right now is going to be good for your soul and for humanity. Anytime a civilization isn't creating art, that civilization is dying. So creating art is fighting back. Write books that they want to ban, self-publish them. Write children's books, draw pictures for children. These are things you can do. And in my comment section, if you have good ways to support, then please comment down below. My channel, I've never talked about this, but on my channel, as a protection, I have links turned off. Anytime somebody adds a link in a comment, it goes to the moderation place, because otherwise you get, as a creator, I get lots of corn bots. And but on this particular video, if you have links on ways to support other people who are working towards equality and inclusion and all of these goals, and how to give back, I will approve those links for this video. I saw news reports that after the election results were announced, that there were, I don't know an exact number, so I don't want to spread misinformation, but it was thousands of suicides reported. Please, we need you. So please, you are needed. So reach out to these numbers. Connect with people in your life that maybe you haven't spoken to in a couple of years. Reach out to them. And if you need to cut MAGA family out of your life, do so. They are welcome back when they are no longer being hateful people. MAGA keeps talking about that we have a difference of opinion. We are not talking about a difference of opinion. Voting for someone who is racist, this is something I wrote earlier today. Voting for somebody who is racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, xenophobic, and classist is not a difference of opinion. It's a difference in morality, and you're a hateful person if you voted for somebody who embodies those values. This is not about gas prices. This is about the fact that you voted against people's lives if you voted for Trump. If you voted for Trump, you can unfollow me too. Please do us both a favor. I am going to be doing my best to answer comments. I also have to take care of my mental health. And so I have not been on social media as much in the last couple, it feels like days, but since Tuesday. But yes, take care of yourself and look for the good. Find the good people. Until the next video, guys, take care.